watching Canadian Muslim news on Muslim Network TV. From Toronto, Ontario, I'm Catherine Bullock. Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace. Later in the show, we will talk to Faizan Ahmed on the new laws dealing with single-use plastics. But first, some news headlines. New housing-related tax benefits in 2023. Hamilton Mosque calls bomb threat concerning. Former Ottawa church to convert into mosque. Prince Harry reveals he killed 25 people in Afghanistan. And now the details. Several housing tax changes will take place this year. Two notable ones include the First Home Savings Account and the Multi-Generational Home Renovation Tax Credit. With the First Home Savings Account, first-time homebuyers can save up to $40,000 on buying a home. A contribution of a maximum of $8,000 can be made each year. Withdrawals for a home purchase are tax-free. Another new tax benefit that will be introduced is the Multi-Generational Home Renovation Tax Credit. Multi-generation homeowners can get up to $7,500 in tax credit for building additional suites for seniors or adults with a disability that allows them to live with family members. Hamilton Mosque representatives call the bomb threat made against the mosque this past Friday disturbing and concerning, reports a media source. The mosque's president says the threat was made at 2 p.m. after Friday prayers. He says Hamilton's police chief told them to evacuate the building as soon as possible. He says the threat was made via an anonymous police tip line. There were around 400 people at that time in the mosque. The president says many people are deeply concerned as the mosque has been targeted before. In 2016, the doorway of the mosque was set on fire. It was put out by Syrian refugees. The former St. Margaret Mary Church in Ottawa will convert into a mosque and a multi-faith community centre after remaining vacant for 3 years. Imam Syed, chair and founder of the Islamic Supreme Council of Canada, says his organisation will purchase the church for $2.5 million. The council owns 32 mosques across the country. Out of these, 2 of them are former churches. They plan to have a Montessori children's school, a seniors group, and a music and arts group. Sohawardi says a multi-faith community space will show respect to the people who are emotionally and spiritually connected to the church. Britain's Prince Harry reveals in his upcoming memoir that he killed 25 people as an Apache helicopter pilot during his second tour in Afghanistan. The book, titled Spare, will be available at bookstores in the UK next week. Prince Harry, who has stepped down from his royal duties, flew during the war in Afghanistan, and his missions resulted in the taking of human lives. He says in the book that he was neither proud nor ashamed of the killings, as he described those killed not as people but, quote, chess pieces. Thousands of Taliban and Al-Qaeda associated militants were killed in the war in Afghanistan, alongside thousands of civilians. And that is it for the news. In December last year, the Canadian government announced a ban on single-use plastics. Certain items can no longer be manufactured or imported for sale. These include everyday things like checkout bags, cutlery, stir sticks, and straws, with some exceptions. The ban on the manufacture and import of ring carriers, those plastics that you hold cans together, will enter into force later this year in June. To explain more, we are joined by Sustainability Manager Faizan Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us again. When I think about banning of single-use plastics like straws and those ring holders that hold cans together, I think, oh my goodness, like what's it going to be like? Can you, before you answer that question, just tell us, why are they doing this? Like, what's so bad about these things that are called single-use plastics?
So the bad thing about this is that the plastics just last in the environment for like thousands and thousands of years. Like they take forever to break down. And if you just Google images of like these plastic rings online, you'll see them in landfills as well as in our oceans and freshwater systems. And you'll often see like some animals are entangled around it. Some of the whales and other fish like eat these plastics, and you end up having them in their system. And what else happens is that the plastic is absorbed in their digestive system, and then we end up eating these fish and animals, and then it comes up into our system as well. So it's just a bad cycle overall.
So this is going to be perhaps a bit of a silly question, but do plastics contain poison? So if it's ingested and then we're eating the flesh of a fish that's ingested, is that ultimately poisonous to us?
Yes, long term, definitely.
Mm.
It
I've read, sorry?
I was saying it definitely has deleterious effects on our health, so it can lead to cancer and other bad effects on our human body.
I mean, not to mention, of course, the first effect that I should have mentioned, the bad effect on the animals who are suffering from it. But I was just tracing through that question about poison.
Mm-hmm.
I've read that they are hoping that by this ban, they're going to eliminate, 1.3 million tons of hard to recycle, billion, 22,000 tons of pollution, which is equivalent to 1 million garbage bags.
Yes.
Can you kind of quantify that for us? Like, is that good? Is that like a good elimination?
It's a good elimination in the sense that it's a start, but there definitely needs to be other major steps definitely needs to be taken. But it is definitely a good small step in the right way. They also, now that this ban is into effect, they also need to start looking at other items such as those condiment bags that you see, like the takeout cups that you get for your coffee, things like that, because those are also used in like really, really large quantities. And it's just like those things keep adding up, and so like they also end up in the environment, and they also take lots of time to like break down. So they also need to start looking at alternatives for those items.
Now, you might not know this. I don't know if this is a technical question or not, but they always use the phrase hard to recycle plastic because we are used to recycling plastic. But these are things that apparently, well, are hard to recycle. Is that why they've been targeted?
So they're hard to recycle in the sense that because they're so like flimsy, and they're made from such thin plastic, and oftentimes they're not even captured. That's why they're often hard to recycle, and they're made from like a complex mixture of materials. It's not just like one type of plastic. So for example, like the plastic water bottle that you drink is made from like one type of plastic. So if it's captured, it can be recycled and remade into another water bottle. But other plastics may not be, because they're just comprised of just several different types of plastics. Another, I guess, point to make on that part is that it's hard to recycle because it's not even captured. If you look at Canada's recycling rate, it's just 9% with regards to plastic. That's very, very minimal. The rest ends up in garbage. It's either burned or it's just like lost in the sea. So it's very small amount that's actually recycled.
Tell us how this is going to impact people in their everyday lives.
So it's definitely going to lead to a habitual change. So the good thing with the ban is that it's going to be everywhere. So people will need to start adapting to it. For checkout bags and stuff, people have already started bringing in reusable bags, which is definitely a good alternative because those bags can be reused over and over. In other places, people have also started reusing items. So like I mentioned, the coffee cups. So Starbucks, Tim Hortons, like if you bring your own reusable cup, they oftentimes give you a discount instead of using the plastic cup. So again, another habitual change there. And definitely in the long run, that once these good habits start to come into play, people will start noticing change in their own behaviors as well as the environment that they're impacting.
I'm just so curious about this. I don't know if you'll know, but how are they going to replace the ring binders on holding cans together?
So in Europe, they actually have cardboard ring holders. So like they often break down faster. Cardboard is definitely easier to recycle. They can also look at different designs that they can use. That maybe you don't need a ring holder. Maybe you just need like a large carton or like a smaller carton with like a handle that can hold all of them. There is a lot of conceptual art online, and a lot of like recycling companies are coming up with various designs, especially out of Europe, because they are miles ahead of the US and Canada in terms of sustainability. So we should definitely learn lessons from there and try to adapt it here.
Human ingenuity. Sometimes it feels like we're going back to the past, because obviously there was a time before plastic, and if you went to the store, you got it wrapped up in a brown paper bag.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And I believe some stores in the US still just use brown paper bags. They're they're easy to recycle, and paper can be reused multiple times.
You're a sustainability manager. Tell us a little bit what that is and how this ban is going to affect your job.
So what my job currently is that I work at I work for a European real estate company called Achilles, and so they buy apartments and then rent out those apartments. And so my job is to make sure that these buildings and their apartments that they're renting out to the tenants are more environmentally friendly, which means that there's very less waste produced in these buildings. The buildings are energy efficient, so not using too much electricity. There's not a lot of wastage. Same thing with water use. Not a lot of water is being used and not a lot of water is being wasted. And then in terms of single-use plastics, it doesn't directly impact us on the tenant side, but more so on the construction-based side of things. So like in plastics are also used in construction. So making sure that the materials we're buying are not like harmful for the environment, and like they're more durable materials and that they can be reused as well.
And have you worked in other positions where this particular ban would have been more significant?
Yes. So like in my previous role, I was working for a company that would buy and sell recycling material. And so in that aspect, like we would often deal with single-use plastics, and single-use plastics often could also be the contaminants in a recycling material bill. So for example, you have a newspaper bale in which there's all these newspapers, but then someone also threw in like a coffee cup in there, or someone threw in like these paper ring holders in there, and that would just contaminate the newspaper pile with this plastic bin in there.
Well, when I've heard that, when I first got involved in this area, it was like 1979, and I went to a conference I was in Perth, Australia at the time, I forget now, it was such a long time ago, sustainability or something. And at that conference, they had big garbage bins at the back where all the photocopying, that was the time of photocopying, all the photocopied materials had kind of been thrown into the garbage. And one of the reasons was what you mentioned, contamination. So is recycling really beneficial, or is it really the way to go? Or is it more this step, which is eliminating the existence of a product in order to come up with better alternatives?
So recycling should be looked at the last piece of it. If you ever Google like the 3 R's or the 5 R's of like recycling would come at the very like middle at the end. The first step is actually to reduce. So like understand what you need and only get what you need or use what you need. Because if you eliminate waste right at the start, you wouldn't need to recycle it. Because when it comes to recycling, the product needs to be actually captured at the recycling point and must be a product that can be recycled, because not all products are actually captured and or recycled at the very end. And recycling also uses energy and time, and money is used in there. So that ends up you like going back at it, like you're using more resources to make the same product, right?
Then this is a elimination from the marketplace, then is obviously a really good thing. You said we're behind Europe, but in Canada, is that kind of law controversial? Does the government get a lot of pushback?
I don't understand what do you mean by pushback?
So is there a lot of industry that would lobby, for example, don't introduce this kind of ban, we can't survive without these plastics, you're going to destroy jobs, or is everyone on board that these plastics need to be eliminated from the marketplace?
So I think because the environment has changed and consumers have changed, consumers are actually demanding reusable alternatives. And so the companies, as well as the companies, are seeing this, that the consumers are demanding to be more sustainable. So they are shifting in the right direction. I don't foresee any pushback towards it, more so like seeing people being more involved with it. And there have been studies done that have actually shown that becoming more sustainable and going towards a more recycling sustainability route actually creates more job than eliminates it.
Well, that's a good cliffhanger for the next show. We're out of time now. Thanks for joining us.
Anyways, thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for watching. If you like what we do, please share, like, and subscribe. Stay safe, and God bless.